accomplish something, anything, stop researching, planning, and preparing to do the work and just do the work. It doesn't matter how good or how bad it is. You don't need to set the world on fire with your first try. You just need to prove to yourself that you have what it takes to produce something. This quote is from James Clear. He's the author of Atomic Habits, and I look forward to our listeners finding out later what that has to do with our topic for the day. Welcome to Looking Up. This is a podcast for Christian women. I'm Kathy Pollard, one of your hosts, and with me is Carla Moore, who's in Branson, Missouri this week for Polishing the Pulpits. She's your other host. Carla, how are you doing?
I'm laughing still because this internet connection, why is it always me? It's always my fault. I feel like I just botch the internet wherever we go. Wherever we are, I have bad internet. So I don't know.
Someone at some point in your life put an internet curse on you.
That must be it. That must be it. But we have to tell everybody as we were praying right before I was praying, and I apparently froze up. But as I'm finishing my prayer and saying, "In Jesus' name, amen," I hear Kathy say, "You still praying?" So you weren't sure if I was talking because I froze up. So anyway, we are sorry if I freeze up at some point during the podcast. We're just going to try to. Am I frozen?
You were, but you're back.
Okay. Well, blaze a trail. Finish something. Finish the podcast.
We're just going to do it anyway, and it'll be interesting. But this is the only opportunity we have because we both have tight schedules in the next few days. So here we go. Really quickly, what's new with you?
Well, yeah, really quickly before I freeze up. Maybe you can blink your eyes if I freeze up, and I'll know that I'll just pause. So that'll work. That'll work too. Yeah, we are here at Branson enjoying PTP, getting to see a lot of friends and hear some good lessons that just started yesterday. This is actually Thursday. On Tuesday night, we got here and we went to see that production of Esther. Have you heard about it?
I've heard about it. I've never seen it.
Oh, man, it was amazing. And I've seen a couple blew that out of the water. It has a set that it goes, it's like from side to side. I felt like I was doing that the whole time because there were things going on over here and over here and over there.
Oh, wow.
And it was just such a well done production, and it was a musical, so there was lots of beautiful music, and the story was told, and it was so neat because they kept talking about be still and know. And every time they would say I am God, they would say I am God. He is God, not I am God. Be still and know he is God. And people in the audience would cheer and just say amen. And it was just very encouraging to be in an audience full of people that were interested in Bible things. So that was a really neat thing. Lance and Robin Riddick took us to see that because we've been talking about it forever. And finally, we're up in the area. So it's really a great production. I hope you'll get to see it. They're going to do David next. So it would be worth a trip up here to see. I've heard good things about all of the productions they've done. So that's cool. Kind of what's been going on.
And you're manning a booth this week? Sort
of. We're just going by every once in a while and checking it. But yeah, we've got a poster out. So if you're listening and you're at PTP, this will come out Monday, the very last day of this polishing the pulpit. So go by and sign the poster. I don't know. I know I sent.
All right, you froze. Last year. There you are.
Okay, so that I don't know if y'all heard me say. It says my internet connection is unstable. But anyway, the poster is 20 by 30 and it had all those signatures on it. And then, but we were flying. So I had to fold it to put it in my suitcase. And
oh no.
So when I got home, I put it underneath a rug, underneath a chair to try to flatten it out, but it still is all bent. But this one we're driving. So I'll bring this to you at some point whenever we are in person. So you can have this one.
You did a great job with that poster. It looks really good.
Well, thanks. But it's all Canva. That's a design program. So but in fact, they're the ones that got me in trouble with the fat last year. If you know, you know, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And the only other thing that I will bring up, and then you can tell us what's going on in your life. But today, my mom, we found a home for her little doggy, baby girl. Yeah, and it's a family, a mom and her three kids, and they're super excited. They're a people, they're a family that Jordan and Aaron know from Katie,
Oh,
and
good.
they were looking for a rescue dog, and so it makes me feel really good that Jordan and Aaron know them. And
Hmm.
anyway, Jordan and Aaron were on their way back from Round Rock. So they stopped this morning and got baby girl, and they sent me some pictures. And
Okay, well, you're frozen up. All right, so while she's frozen,
a very
and
pleasant look on your face.
there you
There
are.
you are. What was the last thing you heard me say?
They were coming back and they sent some pictures.
Yeah. So anyway, they picked her up and we're taking her
Hmm.
home. It was just tough to know my mom is sad, but she knows it's the right thing. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh.
kind of a heartbreaking day, even though
Hmm.
it's, it's one of those things, it's the right thing, it's a good thing, but it's a hard thing. So
Yeah.
just
Well,
pray for my mama.
I will. I will pray for your mom.
Yeah.
Love her. Mm.
I do too. So what's going on there?
I have lots of little things to share with you. First, I have a little, oh, actually, first I wanted to say a shout out to Krista Bassett and a thank you
Mhm.
for my sister Christy did a little promotional contest to get people to share the Looking Up page and podcasts, and Krista Bassett won that. And Christy had bought a tumbler that Janelle, designed as the winning
Mhm.
prize. But I wanted to thank Christy first of all for doing it, Krista Bassett for participating and winning the contest, and Janelle for designing the tumbler. So really appreciate all the support there and made us feel good that y'all did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But Tuesday, I spent the day with Christy again, and she always comes up with fun things for us to do. And so I have a little show and tell. So she's been doing glass work. I've mentioned that on here before, making mosaics. Well, she has moved on to cutting glass and designing like window hangers or garden stakes, or I mean just any number of things. And so we did that together, and I made some garden stakes. So
Oh,
here's my
cute.
this is a
Little
little
snaily.
snail, and this is a little, can you tell what it is?
It's a mushroom. Yeah. It reminds
Yeah,
me of my childhood, both
it's
of
a
those
mushroom,
things.
and it's incredible. I mean, it is such a tremendous amount of work, but it's like scary work. I mean, it's involving glass cutting tools and saws and grinders and safety goggles, and then you're soldering lead
Hmm.
to go in between the, I mean, it's just
Did you have to wear
amazing.
the
And
fun helmet?
no helmet, but we did have safety goggles on, and heat protecting gloves and things like
Hmm.
that. But she's got all the equipment and like her own little shop set up. It's amazing. But she gave me this one that she did.
Oh,
Look
beautiful.
how, so it's
Wow,
peaches.
Christy.
I know she's getting so, so good. And then these are even peach blossoms for those of you who can see peach
Wow.
blossoms around
For peaches.
Peach's face. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so I love it. But
Where are you going to put it?
in my kitchen window.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
love stained
So,
glass and how it
mhm.
throws light.
Oh man, it's, yeah. So I told her she should do classes. You know how people do classes where
Hmm.
you pay and you come and learn how to do sourdough or whatever. She
Hmm.
she could definitely host some classes here.
Yeah.
Um, also, since we're talking about peaches, we'll announce that officially we know that she's pregnant
Oh,
because
how fun.
the vet came out this week and confirmed it. And so it was funny. Jeremy told me last night that Neil texted him and said, "We're pregnant."
Jeremy texted Neil that or the
No,
other way around?
Neil
Okay.
texted Jeremy after the vet left and said, "We're pregnant."
That's the way
So
rumors get started.
I know. Only Jeremy would know what he
Hmm.
was talking about there. But and then okay, the only other thing I'll share for chit chat is that I went and had a pedicure yesterday, and Jennifer Harrison came with me. So
Hmm.
we did that together. And have you ever had one of those things happen where something embarrassing almost happened, but you caught yourself in time, but just thinking about it still made you feel
Uh-huh.
kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
that was close. Well, I had that.
Briefly.
I had that because it's a little bit of a backstory here, but yesterday morning, I signed up for Weight Watchers and I pulled out my credit card to pay for it.
Mhm.
And then later on, I saw my little wallet thing, and I grabbed it and I tucked it in my purse because I knew I was getting ready to leave to go get a pedicure. And a few minutes after that, I was making the bed and I found my credit card in the sheets. So that was that moment of that would have been so embarrassing, if I got the pedicure and then I got
Jennifer.
there and then I didn't have my credit card to pay for it.
Mhm.
So I could feel my cheeks getting hot just thinking about how embarrassing that would have been. But I just happened to see the credit card and I grabbed it and I was like, whew, that was close. So anyway, then I get there and we meet outside the salon and we go inside the salon and we're standing there. You know how you look at the big wall of polish and you pick your color. And I'm trying to determine which color would look best with my skin tone. And I look down at my feet and I am wearing my house slippers.
Are
Yeah,
they at least cute?
not really. They're very comfortable. They're supposed to be like ergonomically, designed or whatever to give you support and all that lumbar support or whatever. I don't know, but they're old lady slippers, put it that way,
Arch
and
support.
arch support. Yeah, and I'm just mortified. And Neil's always trying to remind me, make sure you change your shoes. Make sure you change your shoes, and it kind of irritates me. I'm like, I will, of course, change my shoes. So I took a picture and I sent it to Neil and I was like, well,
Yeah. He wins. He wins that one.
I was so embarrassed. I was like, here I am thinking, out for a cute little day with a friend. And I show up in my granny slippers out in
Did
public,
they, so
out
did they
in
have,
public.
did they cover your toes? Like, were you able to put them on after your pedicure or was,
Yeah, they didn't cover my toes. They're the kind that
okay.
you just kind of slip on,
Okay.
but I was like,
Well,
classic.
speaking of shoes, I know I told you this, but I packed for PTP last week and we stopped. I just kind of was throwing things in the suitcase, but then I packed a small suitcase to take into Jake and Liz's. We stopped there on the way up for a couple of nights
Mhm.
to see the girls and well, to see them too. But so I didn't think much about my big suitcase until we got here. And then I started pulling my shoes out that I had packed for the week. And
Okay, you're frozen up. Man, she froze up talking about shoes too. That's important. All right, so it looks like this is a longer freeze.
well, there
There
you
you
are.
are. There you are. Okay, you
Okay.
said you pulled all your shoes out.
And they all four of them had cork soles. I didn't even know that I liked cork all that much, but
Apparently you
apparently I
do.
do.
Well,
I've
they're
never,
comfortable and cute, so
well, are they still in style? I mean, I don't care because I still
who
like them.
cares? Yeah,
Yeah.
who
Okay.
cares?
Well, apparently I like cork sandals. So,
You always look stylish.
well, thanks, but I
Oh,
don't
you're
know.
welcome.
I think they're probably not trending as much, but like I said, I don't care. It is
Hmm.
what it is. I am who I am. Popeye. I
That's
am who
right.
I am.
I am what I am, what I.
We always end up quoting cartoon characters. It's that intelligence in us, I'm sure. Sophistication.
Yeah, we like to draw on our vast wisdom.
Yeah, of Saturday morning cartoons.
That's right. That's right. I'm sure it shaped us and made us who we are today.
Well, obviously, because we still talk about it.
That's right. Do you have anything else you want to share before we jump into our topic? I'm not trying to rush, but
No, we
we
need
have
to,
such sketchy internet today.
yeah, we should just get going.
Today's topic is called Better Late Than Never. And I shared that quote in the beginning because it spoke to my soul. I am such a researcher. I get these ideas and then I research and research and research and I watch all the YouTube videos on it and read all the books and then never do anything about it. That happens to me a lot. And better late than never. When a few years ago we were moving from one house to another, I was organizing some of our boxes and trying to downsize. You know how that feels so good to do that before you make a big move. And I found a box of cards that I got in 1 week. In 1 week, several years ago, a lot of things happened at once. I graduated from college, I turned 20 and got married. And so there was this box of cards that had cards from all three of those occasions in that box.
Mhm.
And I discovered that one of them I had never opened.
Oh,
And so I opened it, and it was a college graduation card from Neil's parents, and it had two $20 bills in it.
wow.
So I never opened it, never acknowledged it, never sent a thank you note. And, I was kind of laughing about that was definitely a case of better late than never. So I sat down and wrote them a thank you note from so this is like 20 something years later, 20 something years after the fact, I'm writing them a thank you note. And I was able to do it and, laugh about it. Well, there's another occasion where at that same time, when Neil and I got married, we had a quartet come and sing a few songs during the wedding ceremony, and it was Cornerstone from Faulkner University, and they did
Mhm.
a fabulous job. And it has always bugged me that I we didn't pay them. And I mean, I don't think we did. Neil and I didn't. I don't think my parents did because it was my idea, and I'm the one that asked them, to come perform. And I picked out all the songs that they practiced, who knows how long,
Mhm.
to learn the a cappella versions for. And I think it's just because I grew up in a time where everybody just did things for everybody, and you didn't ask people to pay for it. You didn't charge people for things. You just, everybody, if you had something that you could help out or a skill, you just did it. And it didn't really dawn on me until a few years into our marriage. And I was thinking, we didn't we didn't thank them, we didn't pay them, we didn't even cover their expenses because they had to drive a few hours to get to Georgia where we got married. And so for all these years, that's just kind of bothered me. But I've never like hunt them down or found their address and sent them, send each of them $100 with a note. Better late than never. Ha ha ha.
Mhm.
Thank you for
Mhm.
singing at our wedding. But it's funny because it's just kind of every time I think about it, I just have that gnawing feeling of, ugh, I just kind
Yeah.
of left it unfinished or bad form but I wonder how many of things like that there are that we might be hanging on to that we actually could do something about because it's not too late. And whether or not it means anything to the other person, it would mean something to us
Mhm.
to resolve it or let it go or acknowledge it or apologize for it or ask forgiveness, whatever it is. Sometimes it's true, better late than never. So that's kind of what we're going to be chatting about today. It's going to be very informal and casual,
It may be very fast.
very fast. That's right. So, what are your thoughts?
It's funny that you brought up thank you notes because that was one of the things that I wrote down because I
Mhm.
found a couple of them and I don't even remember what they were for. I want to say it might have been a graduation tape and batteries and just different kinds of things that
Mhm.
is in the cabinet above where my phone used to be. And I was going through that one day and I found two thank you notes that I think it was Jacob, sorry, Jacob, had written to different people for graduation gifts. And I was like, oh boy. Well, I mean, it's a no brainer to go ahead and send them.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it just gave me that sick feeling in the pit of my stomach that they thought that he had not thanked them.
Mhm.
And it was my fault. And then I guess I had to track down where they were because it had been several years and make sure that I sent it to the right address. But that's a separate topic about thank you notes because
Mhm.
I have my feelings about those. You are super on top of thank you notes. I mean, you write thank you notes for thank you notes.
Come
You too.
on.
I've seen you do that before. And I think about it and I think I do fairly often, but I'm not nearly as on top of it as you are. But that's kind of a separate topic because whether or not someone should expect a thank you note, I think it should be done. Anyway, we can shelve that for later. But yeah, thank you
Mhm.
notes. That's one.
Mhm.
I mean, what could it hurt ever to go ahead and thank someone for something that's been done in the past? I think the embarrassment that we feel for not having done it
Mm-hmm.
We have that on the one hand, and on the other, need to go ahead and thank them. But they're going to think, why didn't I thank them?
Mm-hmm.
We do it earlier, but just go ahead and do the right thing and send them a note, and they'll laugh about it and they'll be grateful
Mm-hmm.
for it. And in the case like what you're talking about, who wouldn't want to receive $100 25 years later or whatever? What a neat surprise that would be. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a fabulous thing.
Yeah. I'll tell Neil we need to save up for this so I can get it off my conscience.
Yeah. Or maybe just a $15 Dairy Queen gift card, just something to acknowledge.
That's
John
right.
would be thrilled with that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, well, you froze up. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that the examples that I shared, I'm, oh, there you are. I'm sharing them just to kind of give us an idea of what we're talking about. I'm not trying to imply that those are the only hangovers I have. Things that I, regret or didn't handle or should have handled better or whatever. I'm just giving examples of kind of where we're going in the direction that we're looking for. And another example, this one's a little more serious, is when our sons were growing up, and they were teenagers, one of them, and I'm not going to mention any names because it doesn't matter, but one of them got in trouble for something that to my mother's heart was a big deal. And I did not handle it well at all. I distinctly remember, as my grandpa would say, I distinctly remember um, picking up a jar. We had been to the beach recently and we had a jar of seashells. I picked that thing up and I threw it up against the wall.
Oh,
Yeah.
can't imagine you doing that.
Well, yes, I did. And it busted and shells and sand went everywhere. And, I stormed off and it was horrible.
In front of
And
your son?
yes,
Oh.
yes, it was in the moment. And so anyway, for years that has hung over me as I just handled that so badly. I didn't show him grace. I didn't control my temper. I mean, it was just bad. And it wasn't until after we moved here that I had a conversation with him. And I kept debating whether or not to bring it up because you have to use wisdom there too. If it's something painful that happened between you and somebody else, is dragging it back up going to cause more damage, more harm than good? Mm-hmm. And I really wrestled with that and thought, I don't want to drag up something that's going to be an unhappy memory or, recall bad things in his life or anything like that. I just didn't want to do that. But at the same time, I knew I was in the wrong. And so I finally, it was like a less than 5 minute conversation, but I just brought it up and I said, this has been weighing on me for a long time. This apology is long overdue. And I want you to know I handled that very badly, very badly. And I was wrong and I'm sorry. And anyway, of course, he was very gracious and was like, you had every right to. But anyway, he was just very gracious about it. And we hugged it out and it's, whew, let that one go.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are things like that you can easily just say, we need to have a conversation. And, and sometimes there might be something deeper, more involved that needs to happen or needs to take place. But those are the kinds of things that I think of, even if it's been years and years, or maybe it's only been weeks or months, but it seems like the cost is heavier if you hang on to it and neglect it than it is if you just do the hard thing and face the music, offer the apology, extend the forgiveness as hard as it is. Whatever it is, you're going to pay either way. Somehow there's going to be some kind of cost involved. And I just think a lot of times it's more of a burden when we think about neglecting it. There was a quote that I ran across that said, I love this because I feel like it hit me right between the eyes. The magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. And we might use a different word than magic, but we know what the idea is. The life that you think you want, the peace, the contentment, the joyful marriage, whatever it might, maybe it's your, I wrote down some examples of your friendships. Are your friendships not where you had hoped they would be? your marriage, your home, your yard. The magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding, your parenting, your job, and most importantly, your relationship with God. Sometimes it's because we've just neglected it for so long. And then we just get to the point where we think, oh, well, it's too late now. I'm this old now, or this much time's gone by, or whatever, for whatever reason, it's too late now. Or maybe there's some things that we've been hung up on for a long time, like the ones that I mentioned, a situation that you handled badly. I can recall conversations where I'm thinking, I wish I had said this. Somebody in the moment needed to hear something good, or I wish I had complimented somebody, or I wish I had had the courage to say the hard things to some. Sometimes it's things either we didn't say that we should have, or something we said that we shouldn't have. Those kinds of things we may be hung up on. Hurting someone, betraying someone, letting somebody down. Sometimes it's just something that we just have these hangups that we've been carrying around forever. Or like I said, or is there just someone that you need to go ahead and forgive? So these are the kinds of things that I've had in mind for this topic.
Yeah. I was trying to think of examples of what all do we spend so much time and energy and emotion dreading or feeling regret for, when if we just I don't like talking on the phone, but if you have to make a phone call, okay, so your Sirius XM radio, this is so stupid, but how if you just call them every time, and tell them it's too expensive, and they'll say, oh, well, what if we give you 6 months for $9.99? And okay, but you have to get on the phone and do it. And that's a really dumb example, but I think there's some really heavy ones. If it's a doctor visit you need to make, that you need to go, and I hate going to the doctor. I just do. It's one of those things. But you get there and you realize it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I spent weeks or months, or maybe for some even years, just dreading it and not doing it because you were afraid of what the result might be, or you were afraid it was going to hurt, or I don't know. It's really dumb because going to the doctor is not hard. I know there are some hard visits, but just go ahead and do it. But especially those apologies. And I have some of those that I was even speaking not too long ago. And I was talking about, in my lesson, talking about how we treat people who we disagree with. And, there's things in your past with friends that you maybe have not, but you were still friends. And then something happened and distanced you, and you never do anything about it. You never apologize, or you never even confront. And I don't mean confront as in, conflict, but just say, hey, we need to talk about this. Nobody likes to do that. Yeah. And there was someone in the audience that day, and it was like, I probably did stumble over myself, because as I'm saying these words, how do I treat someone that I've disagreed with? And I'm looking out, and there's someone that I had, it was not anything major, but it was enough to separate us and not be as close again. And I thought,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Talk about physician heal thyself. I need to handle that. But there's that thing like you're talking about, where is it something, if I bring it up, it's going to make it worse? Or did they not even think anything about it? And if I bring it up, they're going to start thinking about it. And, and that's where the devil wants us to keep our mind. He wants to keep things in the dark. He wants to keep things in conflict. He wants to keep us questioning. And it just, like you've said, just go ahead and do what we need to do and do the right thing. Apologies are hard.
I will say that, going back to put some wisdom and thought into it, because I did hear of a situation where somebody received a letter from somebody else. And this letter was addressing a situation that happened 10 years before.
Mhm.
And the letter basically stated, I've been carrying this grudge for 10 years. In this particular situation, you really hurt my feelings, and I feel like I just need to let this go and tell you that I forgive you and blah, 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 blah. Well, the person that received the letter had no clue.
Mm.
They could hardly even remember the situation, but definitely didn't know that something was taken the wrong way and that they had hurt this person's feelings. And in that case, it ended up creating more
A whole new
problems.
conflict.
Yes.
Mm.
And so sometimes if that's the case and it's something that somebody did against you, use a lot of wisdom there, because does that person actually know? Can you tell that it was an intentional? And is it even something that you can just let go and give to God? Maybe it's
Yeah.
a let go finally type situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be to your glory to overlook an offense, as
Mm-hmm.
we read in the Bible, in that kind of case. So again, you just kind of have to think it through and use some wisdom when we're thinking about taking
Yeah.
action, even if it's been years. But definitely, if it was on your end and you have the opportunity to forge a relationship or create some healing by being the one to step forward and say, I love you too much to let this go on. And, I want you to forgive me and I'm sorry, and talk it out. So it can be
Yeah.
tough, but it can be done.
I almost feel like in a situation like that, where if you are saying something like, I forgive you years later, then I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure that you're the one with the problem.
Oh, yeah.
Even though that's you're saying I forgive you, it's almost
Mm-hmm.
like revisiting that conflict over and over in your mind, and you
Mm-hmm.
have not done what you needed to do earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to go ahead. I'm going to stop talking because it just told me my internet was unstable. Your turn.
Well, Neil had a lesson on true love on Sunday and what that really looks like. And he had a part in there about forgiveness, because he was talking about true love is imitating the Father. He said, be perfect as I am perfect. And so, God-like ways to love, he said, include compassion, mercy, kindness, graciousness, and forgiveness. And he went on to describe forgiveness as being lifting the fault away from. And I loved that. I've never thought about that before. But, to me, that makes it even easier to say, well, yes, I should be willing to do that. Because who am I to lay fault at anybody's place? That's God's. I mean, people can do things against me and hurt my feelings, but who am I to carry a grudge and keep laying the fault against them? But to forgive somebody is to lift that fault away from them. And that's grace. That is love. That's compassion, and that's grace. And
Removing a weight, you
yes,
know?
exactly. And he went on to ask the question, how much pleasure is God getting out of my life? And it has to do with how I'm treating others, showing
Mm.
the ways that I'm showing true love, God-like love. Is that bringing God pleasure when he looks at my life? So there were some really good points in there. And that happens all the time. We think about what we're going to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll hear something in a Bible class or a sermon, and it just relates so well.
Yeah. One of the examples that you sent me in the text explaining what we were going to talk about this week, you said, what about people that we have not met at church? And
Mm-hmm. Ugh,
ouch.
yeah. Ugh.
Because I have so many of those, with us going back and forth when we come back to Dripping Springs, a lot of times there's new members there. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if they were there before. It's just that's part of the problem that we've had, is not being able to plug in fully one way or the other at one place or
Mm-hmm.
the other. And so then I get back and I'm embarrassed because I don't know them, and I'm embarrassed because I haven't introduced myself. And that's not a super easy thing for me to do anyway. I do it, but
Mm-hmm.
so how do I handle it? And how I have handled it is by not doing it at all. And I'm thinking that there's a good 4 families in Drippin now that I don't know. And I need to just walk up and say, I am so embarrassed that I have not met you. Or if I have, I apologize. I can't remember. My name is Carla. And I feel like we should know each other, and I want to know you. I mean, I'm thinking of all these things I could say it's just hard to actually do it and find the right
Mm-hmm.
time and space to do it. But
Well, you're still frozen, so I'm going to say you at least have an excuse because you travel so much and you've spent parts of the year in an even completely different state. We have a lot of new members at Lehman Avenue, and I feel like I don't have an excuse, but there are still a lot of faces that I know of people that have been coming for 6, 8, 12 weeks. And, I haven't really had a one-on-one conversation with them where I go up to them and say, hey, my name's Kathy. We're glad you're here. Nice to meet you. And the longer it goes, the harder it is to have that conversation.
well,
So,
I can you hear me now? See me
yeah.
now?
Mm-hmm.
Because it completely went off and came back on. So I didn't hear probably the last minute, but I'm sure it was really good.
I was just rambling until you came back online.
Okay. A new talent.
But that's harder than you think when you can't really even see somebody to
Yeah.
get feedback
Well, a
from.
few times you've been talking while I can tell that you can't see me, and
Yeah,
and that's
it's
you
probably
have a new
my face
talent.
going, I'm just talking to who
Just
knows who.
talking. Well,
Rambling
anyway,
here.
yeah.
Well, Eleanor Roosevelt said, do one thing every day that scares you. And I love that because how easy it is for us to just slip into our comfortable everyday status quo kind of lives and just
Mm,
leave things as they are. Don't bother with it. Don't stir up anything. Don't try anything new. Don't, and especially when we get a little bit older,
hmm
and well, it's too late now. And I just don't believe that. I think there are so many things that can fall under the category of better late than never. And they're not all heavy. We've been kind of
hmm
talking about things that really matter,
Yeah.
spiritual things, relationship things, but they could be any number of other types of things. Have you always wanted to learn a new language and you just never really put in the effort or stuck with it? Better late than never. You can still do that, or a hobby or a skill. How about, have you ever wanted to go on a mission trip
Yeah.
and you just never have? And then maybe at some point you think, well, oh, well, it's too late now.
hmm
I expected to
hmm
do that when I was in my 20s and 30s. Now it's you can still do that. You can still go on a mission trip or start a book club or read the classics or write a book or connect more with certain relatives, get involved with prison ministry, have people into your home consistently. How many things have we thought through the years? I really would have liked to do that.
hmm
Or, oh, I wish I could do that. Well, do it.
Yeah.
Better late than never. And I love that saying, you get what you work for, not what you wish for.
Mm,
But with God, I think it's even better than that. It's even beyond that. It's you get more than what you work for when God's in the picture because he takes our efforts and he does something with them.
hmm
And so I have a text that I want to look at for a minute, but I know you froze up and you may have been trying to say something.
No, I haven't. I've just been listening to you.
Okay. I didn't want to just keep rambling on and on if you
No, go
wanted
ahead
to
and
say something.
ramble.
Okay, I'll go ahead and ramble. So Matthew 20, and this is probably came to your mind too, but this is the text that really struck me with this kind of better late than never conversation. And it's about the landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard, and he agreed to pay them a denarius for the day and sent them into his vineyard. So the first thing I want to notice is the landowner is the one looking for the workers. He is wanting people who want to do something.
hmm
He went out early in the morning. Well, then it says in verse 3, about 9 in the morning, he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. And he told them, come on and work. I'll pay you whatever is right. And so they went. He did it again at noon and 3 and 5 o'clock as we're
hmm
reading down through the text. And at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, he went out and he found still others standing around. And he said, why have you been standing here all day long doing nothing? And he tells them, go and work in my vineyard. And so, of course, if we remember the account in verse 9, it says the landowner tells his foreman to pay everybody their wages, and the ones who were hired at 5 in the afternoon came and received the exact same thing as the ones who were hired very first thing in the morning.
Mhm.
And if I'm right, a Jewish day is like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So that early in the morning were probably the workers that started at about 6 a.m.
Mhm.
And that last crew was 5 p.m., which means they only worked for
I
an
know.
hour.
Mhm.
And it's interesting to me, the ones that were hired first thing, they were told how much they were going to get paid, but all the rest of them weren't. They were just told, I will pay you whatever is right. And so, even in their minds, they're probably thinking they were willing to do the work, but they're probably thinking, I'm not going to get paid as much as these workers who have been out since 6 a.m.
Mhm.
And of course, we know that, well, it says in verse 10, when those who came were hired first, they expected to receive more, but each of them received the denarius. And so the early workers began to grumble and said, these who were hired last, they only worked for 1 hour and you gave them the same amount of money. And Jesus, or sorry, the landowner says, I'm not being unfair to you, friend. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the one who was hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I'm generous? So the last will be first and the first will be last. And I feel like there's a few noteworthy things, and that the landowner is finding people standing around doing nothing. And, perhaps in their minds, they were thinking, well, it's too late now. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 4 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There's only an hour's work left anyway. And they could have said, when he showed up and offered them to go work, well, what's the point? I'd only get to work for 1 hour. How much of a profit am I going to get from just 1 hour of work? But they were willing to go anyway. So wherever we fall in the age spectrum or the time spectrum or whatever it is, and we're standing around and doing nothing, go to work, even if it is just for 1 hour, because God is going to do more with it than we expect him to. And he's, as the text says, he's generous. And the ones who have been working longer, he says, are you envious because I'm generous? And so God is generous and takes our efforts and does something no matter how late we go to work with it. And so I just feel like this text was perfect for this type of topic. Whatever excuse we're telling ourselves for whatever it is that we're not acting on or not trying or learning or starting. And I think of things that I've kind of daydreamed about through the years. Wouldn't it be fun to grab just a group of ladies that go visiting once a week together? And maybe we all meet for coffee before or after, or, just little things like that, or the dinner for 8. We've talked about that on here before. I've been wanting to get that started. And, for whatever reason, I think, well, I meant to do that, but I never did.
Mhm.
I'm not dead. Better late than never. There are things that the regrets that I'm hanging on to, I'm not dead. I can still do something about a lot of those. Some of them I can't. Some of them I have to learn to let go and just give them over to God. But a lot of them I can. And even in my own closest relationships, with my husband, there are things that I've said or haven't said. And am I just going to keep taking it for granted that we live together and he's going to love me anyway? Or should I just go ahead and take care of those, even though it's late? I think he would probably appreciate that if I went ahead and took care of it. So you're still frozen. So I'm just going to ramble on here for a little bit until you come back. Nope, you're not back yet. There you are.
There you are.
Good,
Well, I was
because
just saying that if you can hear me, I think there were so many things in that text I've never seen before. Like what you point out about the only ones that knew what they were going to get paid were the ones early on, and the rest, but they did it. I kept thinking while you were talking, just do it, just do it, just do it, get busy and do it. And there's, even in a spiritual sense, a little bit different from what you're talking about. There's somebody I'm thinking of in particular, and others that I know, they feel like they have done so many bad things, it's too late for them. And so they just continue doing bad things. And it's like a self-defeating thing. God's just given up on me. There's no way he can forgive what I've done. I'm just going to keep, why should I try now? And it's almost like they take responsibility for what they've done, but I feel like they just think God can't do that or God won't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not true. When you look at this text, even, at the 11th hour, get busy
11th
and do what
hour.
he wants you
Mm-hmm.
to do.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I want to write that out and look at.
Yeah. And you're frozen. So, but I suppose that's where that phrase came from, the 11th hour, was this
Mhm.
text. Because if it was a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. day, the 5 o'clock would have been the 11th hour
Yeah,
for them. And they
yeah.
still went to work, and God, well, the application is God still blessed them. And, a lot of times we use this text to talk about it's never too late to come to Christ,
Mhm.
no matter how old you are. The reward of heaven is still yours, and
Mhm.
all that comes with being in Christ. But really, so many things this could apply to, and under that category of better late than never. And we're the ones that get in our way and hold ourselves back and limit God and
Mhm.
what he can do. And I suppose, to be realistic, we're not trying to Pollyanna difficult situations up. To
Right.
be realistic, you might finally address something and it doesn't go the way you hoped.
Mhm.
Maybe it isn't handled well. Maybe it's still painful. Maybe it's still whatever, but at least try. And my guess is, more often than not, it'll probably turn out better than we expected. And God
Mhm.
takes humble hearts and sincere action and does the work with them.
Mhm.
We don't have to have that burden on our shoulders of what's going to happen on the other side of things. If there are things that need to be done that we've put off, better late than never, just do it.
You're talking about it, they might not go according to how we expected it to go. And I always, that word expectations, and I think you even said it in verse 10. What I'm looking at says they thought that they would receive more. Does yours say they expected they
Mm-hmm.
would receive more?
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
so we have these expectations again that turn into premeditated resentments, or they
Mm-hmm.
are
Mm-hmm.
resentments, because God can do what God's going to do, and He will do what His plan. It's one of the things I keep seeing over and over in Genesis, writing through Genesis, is that you cannot thwart God's plan. Why try? If you just do what you're supposed to do. Just, it's like a mother's. If you would just do what I tell you to do, your life would be so much easier. But anyway, I just thought that's such an interesting thing. Our expectations, we may not do things the way, I mean, you're not going to be able to do something at 56 that you could do at 20 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those things is getting physically fit. You just,
Mm-hmm.
like you and I have talked about so many times, it's harder to lose weight, it's harder to get stronger at this age, but that we can't just lay down and let it happen and
Mm-hmm.
say because I can't do anything about it, or because it's not as easy as it used to be. That's what we say all the time. It's not like it used to be,
Mm-hmm.
but you can still work on it. You can still, and that feeling of accomplishment and pride in yourself is so valuable. So that's a physical thing, but it can be kind of spiritual too, to realize
Mm-hmm.
that.
Well, I don't know if I'm talking over you because you froze again, but maybe the idea that I referenced the Eleanor Roosevelt quote, do something that scares you a little bit every day.
Mhm.
Maybe that's a little bit too much. And realistically, though, if we took, once a week, maybe break it up into categories. Is there something that matters in eternity? Is it your relationship with God? Have you always needed to be a better Bible student and you just never have? You're not too old for that.
Mhm.
um, have you always wanted to grow in being able to have a Bible study with somebody? Whatever it is, there's something that needs to be resolved, like we've talked about. Just pick
Mhm.
something spiritual this week that you either need to address or try or grow in or whatever. And then maybe on, the things that aren't as important, but you've always thought about it. Have you always wanted to, my sister's really good about gathering friends around her that she gets together on a regular basis. And they've already found that where they are now, where they have friends that they get together with on a regular basis to play games. And I've always thought, oh, I wish I had friends to get together with and play tennis, or learn how to play pickleball or whatever. And I'm
Mhm.
always doing this, I wish, but never actually doing it. It's, just pick something. So maybe every week, just pick something like that. Do I want to try and learn Spanish seriously this time? Or
Mhm.
do I want to have somebody into my home this week? Do I just pick something and write it down in your planner and do it? And those little steps, those tiny little moves, all those better late than never attempts that we're making
Mhm.
can't do anything but enrich our lives.
Yeah. Quit being wishy-washy
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
because I'm gonna freeze again.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? That's about all I have. Is there anything else that you had? I think that's all I had.
I just had things like, learn to study. It's never too late to learn to study or to study more efficiently, or maybe efficiently isn't the right word, but just learn to study. Just do something. Get busy in a Bible study, write scripture, pick up a book and read it and go through it, a ladies class book or any kind of book. Learn something. Learn. That's one of those things that you're never too late or too old to learn something. Get more physically fit. Apologize to people. It's never too late to realize that not everybody thinks like you do, so you can kind of adjust your thinking that way.
Ouch.
So yeah, those are just the things that I thought of on.
Yeah, and maybe it's something that you feel like is missing in your church family, your youth group, your church family. I wish our congregation had this. I wish our congregation paid more attention to the seniors. I wish our congregation did more things with the youth. I wish our congregation had more fellowship outside of worship where we get together and we talk about each other's problems and we encourage each other and we pray for each other. Well, you do it.
Yeah.
Like if we have those wishes about our whatever it is, our church family, our work situation, or what can we do to address it instead of just, like you say, being wishy-washy or wishing or being dissatisfied
Mm-hmm.
with the situation. You be the one to start
Mm-hmm.
having people into your home for those heart to hearts,
Or if
and
you're
encouraging
scared,
them.
grab somebody's hand and do it with them.
Yes, it's way more fun that way. Pick somebody and get it started together. Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Good
Mhm.
discussion.
Yes. And for those who've hung on this far, we are extremely sorry for the internet. And it's hard when there's travel involved and we're trying to keep a good connection. But we really wanted to go ahead. We really didn't want to miss getting an episode out.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what you get. All right. Do you have something good for you? No, because you're frozen. So I'll go first. My something good for you is a recipe. And I think my favorite type of recipes are the ones that are good for Sundays because it's just the right amount of cooking time from the time you leave for church to the time you get home. And this is one of those recipes, and it's a slow cooker recipe for butter chicken. Do you like butter chicken?
I don't know that I've ever had it, but I've always wanted to try it because I've read
Well,
the recipes.
this one is so easy, and I'll share the recipe in the Looking Up group on Facebook. But you, in your slow cooker, you put like diced onions in the bottom, and you either slice or dice your chicken and you roll it in a bunch of spices, which of course involves curry and a bunch of other things. You roll
Mm-hmm.
your chicken in that, lay it on top of the onions. And then on top of that, you do pats of butter and honey and, a can of drained chickpeas. And I forget what all is in there. But um, it cooks on low for 4 hours. So
Mm-hmm.
it is perfect for starting right before you head out the door. And by the time you go through Bible class and worship and visiting and travel and you get home, serve it over some rice. So what I did is I had the butter chicken going in the slow cooker, and then I had my rice ready to go in the instant pot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just hit that button right as I walked out the door because the rice is going to be fine, jasmine rice, just sitting
Mm-hmm.
in there done until we got back.
Right.
So when we got back, all we had to do is throw it in our bowls, and you could top this with fresh cilantro or toasted coconut or even diced cucumber, all those toppings that are really good on top of curries, and
Mm-hmm.
things. So it was good. It was good.
You always have the best recipes.
Yeah, thanks. What you got for us?
Mine is, and I don't know how many people will be able to access it, but anyway, I'll just say it. John, two of his assignments this week. The first one was the history of ancient and modern Israel. And then the second one that he's doing this afternoon is should we support modern day Israel? and which of course is a very
interesting.
it's a very controversial and hot issue right now. So he's only done the first one yesterday, and he was, he's been nervous about him because he has all this material, and how do you pack it? Yesterday's was 45 minutes, but today's is 30. But am I still frozen?
All right, you're unfroze now.
Okay.
You said the last thing we heard was yesterday's was 30.
Okay. So he did this, kind of put this together on the cruise last year. And I thought to myself, he needs to record this somehow, because he just kind of went through the history and the periods that have gone through Israel, who was in control of the land and all that. And it was excellent. And it was so good yesterday, and it helped me. And I understand maybe more than the average person, just because I've been there a few times, but I learned so much yesterday, and I'm looking forward to it again today. So I'm not sure if it will be, if they'll make it freely available from Polishing the Pulpit, but he's going to record it for Bible passages and put it on YouTube. So this is kind of a stay tuned. Eventually you'll be able to have something good for you. But if you're interested in the history of Israel, how it came to be from the very beginning until now, and how do you cover that in an hour? You don't, but can hit the high points. But it was really good. So that's my
and John is the one to do it. Of all the people I know, he has the knowledge, and I know the attitude will be just where it needs to be, and it'll be fair and objective. And all right, so we'll wait to hear from you, I guess, in the Looking Up group whenever those are available. If you find them from PTP, you can share the link, and if not, we'll wait for them to come out from Bible passages. So that's a good one. And you're frozen. So I'll say, great conversation despite the challenges. Thanks to our listeners for listening, and there you are. And Carla, until next time.
We'll call this the Frozen episode, but till next time, I'll keep looking up. I'll keep looking for new internet.
Love you, friend.
Love you too. I'll talk to you later.